we are living in a hyper-partisan age. That is not hyperbole, that is true. Our government is acting like divorced parents, dividing up issues like they're furniture in a divorce. That's a liberal issue, that's a conservative issue, but this affects all of us. Germs don't respect party affiliations. Germs will affect all of us. And therefore, if we're going to come together, it sounds like we are going to have to confront the ideologues on both sides that are trying to tear us apart. Governor Ridge, what would you say to your fellow conservatives who would argue, I don't want to vote for this, this is expensive, this is big government bloat, especially when I've been told since 1980, government is not the solution to our problems, government is the problem?
Well, first of all, I would say that I think Republican and Democrat alike want us to be prepared for all eventualities. I don't think Republicans are more interested in providing for the common defense than my friends on the other side of the aisle are. But I would say to my Republican friends, we have long argued, and I embrace that philosophy necessarily, that more isn't necessarily better. Better's better. And so that necessarily more appropriations doesn't always address the problem. What I would say to them, if you're looking for smart government, effective government, outcome-based government, then let's accept the recommendations of this group. There is a national strategy. There's a comprehensive plan to help set priorities and clearly appropriate in the context of a $600 billion national defense budget. If you believe, as this bipartisan panel believes, that this is a national defense issue, set those priorities, but you're going to find, if you think about it, it's not just giving more money to the same agencies, it's about giving the right amount of money to the right agencies for the right outcomes to build that biodefense infrastructure. I think that's an argument, I think that's a winning argument. It's about effective outcomes.
Now, Secretary Shalala, on the different side of the aisle, what would you say to your fellow liberals who would say that this smells a lot like post 9/11 Bush-Cheney fear-mongering, and look where that got us last time, and I don't want to vaccinate my kid because I read somewhere on Facebook that that could cause problems?
Well, first of all, the first thing I'd say to them is they better vaccinate their kids because their kids will be at risk and put other children at risk. I agree with Governor Ridge. This is not just a matter of allocating new money. It's how we spend the existing money that we have and whether we spend it strategically. These germs do not know whether they're Republicans or Democrats. In the Constitution, protecting the common good, this is clearly a federal role. Certainly the strategy is a federal role, and that ought not to be debatable between Republicans or Democrats. This is about making certain that the American people are safe and that they're healthy, and that's a very critical role. It's the best investment we can make for our future. We're anticipating the future. That's what leaders are supposed to do, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. And I agree with Governor Ridge that spending the money smarter, getting better coordination, having leadership out of the White House will make all the difference for the future, for a disease we can't predict at this moment.
We talked about the voters and whether the voters should be calling their members of Congress and so forth. And I think to some extent that's true, but realistically, they're getting the kids off to school, they're going to work, they're paying their bills, they're taking care of their homes and so forth. But what we're trying to tell the members of Congress is, your constituents are not knocking on your door now, or calling you and yelling at you, this is my number one issue, because frankly, it isn't. But you can be sure of this, when it happens, and a bunch of them have died, they will be knocking on your door, they will be calling you, and they will say, why weren't you ready for this? You had plenty of advice, plenty of reports, and you didn't do the job.
I'd like to just add, as by way of encouragement in this time of awful partisanship here in Washington, except on this panel. I saw a poll recently, I forgot where it's from, it was credible. It was an interesting question. They asked people, do you think we should rely on the government to solve big national problems, or should we leave it to the private sector, to businesses and individuals? And at a time when there's great anti-government feeling in the country, a lot of it for good cause, 60% said the government. We have to count on the government to solve our problems. High 30s said individuals and business. And I think that's a kind of bipartisan consensus, common sense that when you're dealing with something as big as an infectious disease pandemic or a biological terrorist attack, we have to count on the government to protect us.
So it's just like World War II. Yes, the government led the way, but the private industry was the one that built the weapons, and it was the average citizen that voted and bought war bonds and put on uniforms and did what they had to do.